So hey everyone, I'm here with Russell and Chandler today from Indigo Ag. We will be spending a couple of minutes today talking about their carbon program and how you farmers can take advantage of this opportunity. So welcome, Chandler and Russell. It's great to have you here today.
Thanks, Eugenia.
Um,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Great. We'll go through a few topics briefly, but the first thing I want to touch here is around grower compensation around the program. So, can any one of you walk me through how you compensate growers? What are actually carbon credits, if you want to go into that, and who do you sell those to, and how is this related to what growers do out on the field?
Absolutely. Great question. Um, carbon credits are essentially a digital asset, is a new term coming a lot of different ways these day and age. But in reality, what is happening is each year a grower plants a crop and sequesters some form of carbon. Well, within that process, there are practices that help increase or extend the amount of carbon that can be sequestered and stored, such as cover cropping, reducing tillage or no-till, and those sort of things. So what we've created is a robust, rigorous process model, if you will, that allows us to measure the carbon sequestration process, quantify what is being stored based off of the growers' practices that they're making and the data they've shared. So essentially what we do, there's several factors involved in creating a carbon credit. Um, the We are using a biogeochemical model in Decent CR. We are also asking for the growers' historical practices on their operation. So that is where the growers' practice data comes into play, and we're also sampling a subset of fields. Um, all those factors go into uh, a a program that and software technology that we help quantify, and then we send it to our third-party verifier, which we are approved through Climate Action Reserve, or CAR for short, which is really the premier registry, at least on the U.S. side, that we identified when we wanted to come to market, and we've been working with them, and they go through and audit our process, make sure that we're following our soil enrichment protocol that we have on file with them, and actually saying, hey, each year this is how many credits we generated. And there's also a small buffer pool that goes along with that to help protect growers in the instances of um, maybe flood, or maybe it was a super wet season and that sort of thing, things beyond their control that could cause a leakage of that kind. So really trying to make it a robust, rigorous, but flexible at the same time for the growers so they can farm as they wish to farm, but also where there's opportunities to leverage some carbon credit revenue, they can do that as they choose to participate in these programs.
Okay, that's great. And how much of the credit kind of price does a grower typically get?
Absolutely. With Indigo, we guarantee 75% of the total credit price goes to the grower um, making the practice changes or the operator on the field. Uh, the remaining portion is used for Indigo. Obviously, there's science R&D that goes into this, research and development projects that inform and help improve the models on an ongoing process. And then we also go to market with partners as well. So some partners that choose to support these programs, they stand to benefit in the total credit price as well. So Indigo is looking to keep the grower at the forefront of this. It's a grower focused, grower friendly, flexible program, and they will always get 75% of the credit price, as no matter when or where that price sits. So they're doing the bulk of the work. They deserve the bulk of the return, and then obviously the remaining percentages Indigo is using to maintain as just operating expenses and things that it takes for us to improve the technology and make it easier, quicker, and faster for the growers to take advantage of it.
That's great. That's great to hear. That you guys are at least like ensuring a certain percentage that goes to them. And
Absolutely. So Indigo is a outcomes-based program, so we are trying to be as accurate as possible based off of the measurements, and that's key for that for driving a premium price. As you can see, it's a demand-heavy market, meaning when Indigo came to market, we've been around as an organization for 10 years, but really developing this carbon space over the last five. When we first came to market, we were offering selling credits at $20 to the buyers, which equated to $15 a credit to the growers. We're now up to $45 to the growers and selling around that $60 a credit to the buyers. So we've seen a steadily increase of the price. What's driving that is we have more corporations at the table that have made these claims and need to make these investments and align their supply chains and that sort of thing and drive solutions. And there's not that many solutions out there. Regenerative ag is just one solution that's going to be used for this. You may have heard of things happening like direct capture opportunities or building things alongside ethanol plants or carbon pipelines. Those definitely could have an impact, but they require infrastructure. Those have got to have to be built. There's large investment. There's actually disturbance that goes into that. So really, what we're seeing and being witnessed as this is developing.
and you guys have recently built a calculator that's like available for all growers to play around in your website. Could you explain how the calculator works and like how this kind of vesting process works for those of us who are not very familiar, kind of like with these terms?
Yeah, absolutely. So Indigo has a carbon calculator, as you mentioned, that you can plug into based off your regional location. A practice. So cover crops and no-till are the two main practices we show on the calculator because those are the highest returning credit generating practices that we're offering to date. The grower is able to identify their location, indicate a practice, and put in an acre amount. So let's say if they wanted to say, I want to see what 500 acres of cover crops would pay me on my operation, or 1,000, et cetera. They could put that in. They could put where their operation lies, and then we will give a payment estimate based off of our model results. So it's aligned with how we go to model, and it's as accurate as we possibly can. Each year that we pay growers for carbon credits, we are updating and making sure that our effect size is getting as accurate as possible and continually in line with what the cover crop calculator is showing, or calculator is showing, excuse me. So that you can rest assured that we're always showing you the latest and greatest and of what we're learning alongside, and to give you as an accurate estimate of what you could get paid as possible. We do pay an investing schedule, as you mentioned. If you're familiar with some cost share programs out there, such as CSP, EQIP, those sort of things, a lot of these programs that incentivize more regenerative practices have some sort of permanence or that sort of thing, because obviously with regenerating soils, that is a long-term approach. Storing carbon in the soil is not you are doing it year over year, but you have to manage it correctly, and that's why the farmer is in such a prime position to really cash in on these opportunities. So it takes that 3 to 5 year on-ramping period to do it, and so with a lot of those programs, the reason they are spread them out over that way is because of the permanence feature of that. Of if you stick with it, you can permanently store soil organic carbon in your soils and really charge up your soils to be less reliant on other inputs such as nitrogen and that sort of thing. Not saying you eliminate it altogether. You'll always still have to plan for that, some sort of inputs along the way. However, if you can do it more regeneratively, maybe it cuts down on some of those, or there's other solutions you can look at. So with that, it's a vesting schedule where we pay 50% the first year, 20% the second, and we spread out the remaining 30% over the last 3 years and 10, 10, and 10. So again, that's really to incentivize the grower to adopt a new practice and stick with it. But also you can rest assured that within the flexibility and farmer focus that we've built this, that anything you're paid on our program is yours to keep. We're never going to have any clawbacks or anything like that in our program, which is key, as I think there's other places, other marketplaces out there that will come back and claw back money if the grower decides not to stick with a practice or something like that. So anything that you get paid is yours to keep. If you do decide to participate for a couple years and maybe you find another program or you decide to go elsewhere, withdraw, we're never going to come back and claw that money back. Obviously, you would forfeit any future payments, but you're able to keep what you have and you take your data with you as well. You own the data is yours to keep it, and that sort of thing. So it's really a flexible opportunity for growers to participate.
It's a very interesting approach. Thank you so much for sharing. Now that you mentioned EQIP and CSP, the government programs, this is a very common question we get from growers. Um, is it possible for growers to stack kind of like your program with these type of programs? Under what circumstances?
So then the short answer is yes. The longer answer is it depends on the program as well. When it comes to these programs and stacking, is a lot of these cost share programs, so the ones I mentioned like CSP and EQIP, they're stackable because they are basically reimbursing you, if you will, or giving you a lump sum payment based off a practice that you've agreed to implement in accordance with their guidelines. So they are not, the government's not out there saying, hey, we claim to have sequestered X amount of carbon through this program. And because of that, it's able to be stacked with a voluntary carbon market like ours. There's also some private watershed programs that are stackable, as long as there's nothing in their terms and conditions that disallows the grower from participating in ours. So that's one thing to check, is just read your terms and conditions on those other programs as well to make sure there's no like exclusivity clauses and that sort of thing that pushes another program from coming in. And then the other piece of that is, as long as they're not making a claim, they're not selling that carbon a claim to someone else and making a claim themselves. If they are, then you would need to make a decision at that point and say, hey, I need to go with this program or that program. You can't do both, because that would be considered double dipping or double accounting, if you will. Again, that's just a key thing to think about. So if you're going to put your acres in a program and try to do them both programs, some growers they'll split the farm and say, hey, I'll put half in this program, half in the other. That's fine, as long as the same acre is not participating in multiple voluntary carbon markets and trying to cash in both ways. Because again, that's where you would lose some integrity, and potentially you're counting that same carbon sequestration rate twice for two different organizations, and that could cause some issues down the road.
Yeah, we wouldn't want double counting, right? So guys, just ask. Generally, you can't, like two companies cannot make the same claim twice. The government doesn't make claims. Anyways, you can always ask your office, like just to make sure that that you are not breaking any rules out there. But this, yeah, it's important to ask just around, right? Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so now let's jump into data and the data requirements that you touched briefly on this as well. Um, I understand you've made some improvements actually to your data collection process. You've listened to feedback from growers. Can you tell us a little bit about those improvements and why it's so much easier today for a grower to actually upload their information?
We've been in the gym, so to speak, over the last 3 to 4 years, paying growers for these practices. With that, we've gotten experience and made it even better. We're transitioned our data collection process from asking for per field per event to now we're just asking for a crop plan. So we'll say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Producer, uh, how do you manage your corn each year? How do you manage your soybeans? How do you manage your wheat? And the grower is able to work themselves or work with a partner to submit how their management plans, and then they can mass apply that to any field. And then we combine that with our remote sensing capabilities and verify it and true it up with our satellites. So it's really come from a process where you're only sitting, where it was sitting down a little bit, kind of like before we had TurboTax, doing your taxes, opening up a huge file cabinet and thumbing through paperwork. We're now in the TurboTax version where it's a much simplified, going from hours to minutes, where I think the latest demo we saw, you can get 5 or 6 years worth of data submitted, and that's about what it takes for the first year of the program. You can get it done in less than 30 minutes.
That's great to hear. Under 30 minutes is just it's super easy, right? To go through.
Absolutely.
And what are the key kind of data points that you require kind of normally? And how have you made it so straightforward? Like I've heard around there that you're using some type of remote sensing and trying to pull historical data. How does that work today? Kind of like in the interface.
Sure, absolutely. So we are using NDVI layers, so very similar to what you're used to probably with some of your precision ag software that's out there, and that sort of thing. So we're able to help push through planning dates and that sort of thing. So that's one key thing where in the past we were relying on some sort of document or maybe the computer iron to tell us that, meaning the computer in the tractor, to tell us when did you have a planning event. We're now able to infer some of that on our own and just confirm. So it went from, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Producer, tell me when you planted, tell me when you harvested, to, hey, this is when we show you harvested. Is this right? Yes, and move on. So, and that's come with hearing growers, hearing from their experience in the early years, but also working on the other side of that to push the technology a little bit further and make it a little bit more streamlined and easier.
Yeah, seems so easy and quick. How do they start? Like, where do they start? Do they reach out to someone? Do they just sign up in the website?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the beauty of software. So I believe we worked with Vayda. You all have a link, a personal link that could take you directly to the carbon calculator. I think there should be a button there to click enroll. It's a really quick 5-step process. I say five. It's really like it's done in three, but essentially all we need between now and September 3rd, meaning if you've done any cover cropping or you move to no-till or tillage reduction from harvest 23 into 24, uh, we can get you modeled and paid for this. And so you'd want to get enrolled by September 3rd of this year. Um, it locks in that 5-year period to where maybe it's something you're thinking about. You could go ahead and get enrolled, and then when it comes time to harvest and submit the data, you could either go ahead and move forward, or maybe you can wait and just have your additionality locked in, meaning that additional practice that could earn a carbon credit, and you can cash it in on your own time. So it's really meant for the growers to farm as they want to farm, participate in the program as they want to participate, and it's really leaves the autonomy up to them. But that's the beauty of software. It's open 24/7, 365. They can go create an account, and then there's some simple eligibility questions that will tell you if you're eligible or not. really as simple. I think it's less than 10 questions that they have to go through. And then they just indicate what practice change is happening on that field that they want to participate in. And then once they've done that, they're enrolled, and Indigo will reach out when it's time to start entering data, which doesn't happen closer till December of 24 this year. It'll open up, and then they have all the way till March 25 to get that data in.
And one last topic I wanted to touch on was actually like the usage, right, of this grower data. Um, Data privacy and data protection, I think in general, is a sensitive topic for all users, but like particularly we hear this from growers a lot, um, that they are skeptical because they know that their data in the past has been used against them in a way, and that's a broader topic. We can discuss it for hours. But yeah, particularly today, I would like to hear from you. Why is it important actually for the growers to provide this information, right? Like whether that's like the crop rotation, the fertilizer application, like how does this affect actually kind of like the outcome, the payment, etc., and like how it benefits them in particular, right?
The reason we're able to command such a premium price for these carbon credits is these corporations want to know that the dollars they are committing to a offset market are making an impact. And so by setting that baseline, as the grower starts to implement cover crops or starts to reduce his tillage and go to no-till, we can measure the delta, if you will, the change from their baseline on that field to what they've been able to sequester. And that's what they are getting paid and rewarded for, of making that beneficial impact. And that's essentially the trade, right? You offer the practice change information. We model the outcome off of it and show the benefits and sell that portion and get them paid for that. We are part of Ag Data Transparent. It is the same a certification that people like my John Deere have gone out and gotten, meaning we take the utmost care with growers' data to protect it. It is anonymized before it is sent to the verifiers. So we take it, we obviously need to know who we're paying. So we're taking some entity information and that sort of thing, just like when you work with a retailer and you're buying seed or that sort of thing. So we do need to get those things set up. However, once we send it to the verifier, we'll anonymize it and that sort of thing. And we take it, the data is important to us to make sure, and we're only agreeing to use your data to help offset a carbon credit, right? We're not going to take it and then sell the data is not what we're selling to other people. We're selling the change that practice and that you're proving that you've done has made. So that's what's key here. If a grower does ever participate and share his information or her information and decides to go elsewhere, then at that point we wipe it clean and we give them their data and they can take their data wherever else and use it however else they want to. So by entering an agreement with us, you're not signing over the data rights or that sort of thing. You're just agreeing to work with Indigo to do the quantification portion and bring the buyers to the table to take advantage of this new developing sustainability space.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Like the data is theirs. It's not like someone's going to come up after them because they made certain changes or whatever. It's all anonymized. They get the payment in the end, and what the companies get in the end is just a carbon credit that they want to offset whatever emissions they've done. And that's how kind of like the deal is done. Great. Thank you so much, Russell, for your time. Are there any final thoughts or comments you'd like to share?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, I would just say you're spot on with the data piece. If anything, Indigo is committed to trying to get as much returns for the growers as possible in this space. So, in addition to not only participating in the premier voluntary carbon market that's out there to date. You're also going to get brought some opportunities. You'll get put at the front door for what we're talking about and what's coming down the pipe with these inset markets in the scope 3 space, meaning so if that information is there, we can approach you with even more opportunities to say, hey, we're actually now able to model X practice, and we show that you've done that. You might want to take a look at this, and that's sort of the opportunity. And that's why we've developed some things like Field Flex. So if you hear about these markets that are developing like 45Z or the sustainable aviation fuel and that sort of thing, those are more compliance markets and not voluntary that are kind of developing in front of our eyes. We still are waiting on some regulations to be put in place before the end of the year. However, we're trying to put growers in the best position to be able to take advantage of both and not lock them into anything or out of anything as we go. So if it's something they've been thinking about, they're kind of confused, we're happy to answer the question.
Thank you. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for making the time to chat with me today. I learned a lot.
Mhm.
And I hope this actually helps growers out there that are listening as well. So yeah, thank you so much. And we'll chat soon then.
Yes, thanks, Eugenia.